All right, let's talk about something that is literally on your skin right now. It's a bacterium called Staphylooccus Epidermidis, and it's one of the most common microbes that calls our skin a home. But that brings up a really interesting question. Is this thing a harmless passenger or a hidden danger? It's time to pull back the curtain on this tiny resident.
Just think about that for a second. This microorganism is a totally normal part of your body's ecosystem. But, and this is a big but, under the right, or maybe I should say the wrong circumstances, this friend can turn into a very serious foe. So how does that happen? Well, that's exactly what we're here to figure out.
First things first, to really get why it can be a foe, we first have to understand it as a friend. Let's just set the baseline here. What is this bacterium's normal place in our world?
So day-to-day, Staphylooccus Epidermidis is just there. It's a key player in what's called your skin flora, that whole community of microbes just living on your skin. And for most of us who are healthy, it causes zero problems. It just hangs out. It's a classic example of a commensal relationship. It gets a place to live, and we're not really bothered by it at all.
Let me take just a few seconds to say that, if you'd like to support my project, you can offer me a symbolic coffee on Ko-Fi. You'll find the link below in the description. You can also check out my book, where I've gathered many experiences and useful tips. Every gesture means a lot to me and truly helps me keep this channel and the whole project going. And if you haven't done it yet, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and visit my website or blog for more content. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Okay, but this is where the story takes a twist. This is the moment that this totally harmless resident can become a genuine threat.
See, this is the absolute key. The problem isn't the bug itself, it's all about location, location, location. As long as it stays on the outside of your skin, everything is fine. But if it finds a way inside, say through a cut or during a medical procedure, and latches onto something artificial, like a prosthetic joint or a pacemaker, well, that's when everything changes. So how does it get so tough once it's inside? It builds a fortress. Seriously, it's called a biofilm. Just imagine this sticky, slimy shield that the bacteria create to protect themselves. And this shield is the real villain of the story, because it makes the colony incredibly hard for our immune system to fight and for our antibiotics to penetrate. And because of that biofilm fortress, S. epidermidis suddenly becomes a major headache. It's actually one of the leading causes of infections people get in hospitals, especially infections linked to medical devices. These things can turn into chronic, long-term problems, and they are notoriously tough to get rid of, all because that biofilm is so darn effective.
So, with a threat like this out there, who really needs to be the most aware? Let's break down which groups are the most vulnerable.
The big theme here you'll notice is having foreign objects inside the body. So we're talking about patients with things like prosthetic heart valves, artificial joints, pacemakers, or even long-term catheters. All of those provide the perfect landing pad for this bacteria to set up shop and build its biofilm. And of course, anyone with a weakened immune system is going to be more at risk for, well, any kind of infection.
Now here's the really sneaky part. The symptoms are not what you'd expect. We're not talking about some sudden dramatic illness. Often, it's a nagging, low-grade fever that just won't go away, or a deep sense of fatigue you can't shake. Maybe you get chills or night sweats. It's stuff that's pretty easy to brush off, but for someone in those risk groups we just mentioned, these are huge red flags.
Which brings us to the big challenge, actually treating it. I mean, how on earth do you fight an enemy that has built its own fortress inside your body?
Yeah, like we've been saying, that biofilm is the whole game. It's a literal shield that stops antibiotics from getting to the bacteria. So getting rid of the infection isn't as simple as taking a few pills for a week. No, this requires a much more serious, sustained attack.
And even just finding the infection takes some real detective work. Doctors will usually start by taking several blood cultures over a period of time to confirm the bacteria are there. They might use an echocardiogram to literally look for those biofilm growths on heart valves. Other blood tests can show signs of inflammation. And finally, it all gets put in front of a specialist, like an infectious disease doctor, to connect all the dots.
And once it's confirmed, the treatment plan is intense. We're talking about very specific, targeted antibiotics that are chosen only after lab tests show which ones will work. And that medicine is almost always given through an IV, sometimes for weeks on end, just to get enough of the drug to the infection site. This is a serious situation that absolutely requires expert care. And look, this brings me to something that is incredibly important. Please hear this. This is not something you can guess about or try to handle on your own. Given how tough this infection is, how resistant it can be, and how serious the risks are, trying to self-medicate is just plain dangerous. You must always get professional medical help.
So, after all of that, what's the big takeaway? It's pretty simple, actually. Just understanding that this risk exists is the single most important step in protecting yourself and the people you care about.
And the good news is, we're not powerless here. Simple things can make a huge difference. Being really careful with hygiene, especially around any medical devices, is key. So is proper wound care to make sure there are no easy entry points. And, critically, if you have any kind of implant, you have to tell your doctors before any procedure so they can take the right precautions.
You know, I think this quote just nails it. Staphylooccus epidermidis is the perfect example of how, in the world of microbes, context is everything. It's one of our most common companions, totally harmless most of the time. But it's also one of the most underrated threats in modern medicine. Knowing when and how it can become a danger is what gives us the power to prevent it, spot it, and treat it. So the question isn't just friend or foe. It's when does our friend become a foe? And now you have the answer.